Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I am here with episode 18 of my Halloween horror movie review series, and this is going to be, of course, like you saw yesterday, for It Chapter 2. Now, this is actually a really kind of newer film that actually came out last year, and is, of course, the half, like in the Stephen King novel, is the half with the adults, which takes place the several years after they as kids defeated Pennywise. This time, it's set in the year 2016, 27 years after the first film. And this time, the Losers Club has now grown to adults. When they get a mysterious call and learn that it has returned, they all have to now go back to Derry and defeat Pennywise for good, like they promised when they were kids. It's while Pennywise is waiting for his revenge. And now, I was actually really pumped for this movie because I love Chapter 1 so much, and they actually promised us it'd be scarier than the first one. So, I was there opening night, went to see it, and now, it was good, but if it was trying to be better and scarier than the first one, it really kind of failed. It was still a good movie, it wasn't terrible, but at the same time, it was a kind of a disappointment. Here are some of the bad qualities why. It felt too long at times. It's kind of almost 3 hours long. It's more of a comedy than a horror, kind of like an Indian horror film. Some members of the LGBT community can even find the opening scene with the kills in the beginning of the movie a little too brutal. Then they de-aged CGI for the child actors, which was very weak and really uncanny, especially Jack Dylan Grazer being the kind of the worst one. The CGI on Pennywise's final form is definitely not good. Pretty much so that it almost tries to hide it for strobe lightning, which I really don't like because I can barely get through strobe, and the camera constantly shake around, which was also very migraine inducing when I saw it in the theaters. And yes, it is a spider form, guys, but it's much better detailed, thankfully, because at least it still has Pennywise attached to the spider body, so unlike in the original 90s movie where it's just literally the spider we don't even know about. But now for the good qualities, well, it is a good conclusion to the whole story. Bill Skarsgård still does an amazing job as Pennywise the Clown. At his absolute best, he's actually a little stronger, evil, and more powerful than before. And unlike the 90s TV series for the adult actors, they actually give off amazing performances as the older Loser Club, with a particular highlight definitely being Bill Hader, who is most hilarious and even quotable lines. And the adult Losers Club are still likable like the Kids Losers Club was. The movie's still faithful to the novel, even if it was less than the original. Still has some intense scary moments, particularly with especially like when there's those two children deaths in the movie. Actually, are the scariest parts of the movie. So, yeah, like the Hall of Mirrors death and the girl in the bleachers death, and especially the LGBT couple's death in the beginning. It retains a lot of the humor from the first movie. Even a clever cameo of Johnny from The Shining during the final battle in the restroom with blood, which was a good throwback. Some of the sets and creature designs are some of them were the best, maybe better than the original since it gives off some nostalgia. There's even a lot of touchy moments in the film. There's no cliched romance in this movie, and it's not even forced at all. They actually did it off very well. It doesn't just cut to the. It also doesn't just cut to the future. It has references to the original film, which gives off a good transition. Good, like we start off with a recap of them promising to come back to Derry and kill the creature as adults. So I'm glad they at least gave us a recap to remember where Chapter 1 left off. And just like another movie that came out that year, which was my favorite movie of that year, of course, Avengers Endgame, very satisfying conclusion with some bittersweet tinges. Great ending, all the losers. Great ending too, all the losers move on from Derry despite the loss of Eddie during the final battle with Pennywise, adding the whole chapter from the book, and Derry doesn't get destroyed in this movie. It actually still intact, which I'm glad they kept for once, and which I'm glad they didn't the town didn't get destroyed, and only the house that Pennywise hides in is destroyed. It's much better that way too, because then some random citizens aren't killed off like in the book, so that's still a pretty nice touch. Now, it was still a decent movie, but it did have quite a few flaws, and it was definitely one of the more weaker films of 2019. I think I was just expecting too much, and then of course, well, this movie did need to happen, because if it didn't, it wouldn't be fully complete. And it's still also pretty good if you try not to call it a sequel, because it's more of the other half of that film, and I think people like to just use the term sequel for this film too much, so that is kind of another problem. Remember, guys, this isn't really a sequel. It's just the other half of the actual story. There never really is a sequel to it. And there's rumor they might try to do a third film as a prequel and explain the origins of Pennywise, but I really hope they don't do that, because that would basically ruin the impact of the novel, and Stephen King did not intend that. He never intended it to be some book franchise, really. So, but anyway, now, still a pretty good film, but it's a bit of a disappointment. But anyway, here is how I would still rank it.
I am going to give It Chapter 2 a 7.5 out of 10.
Well, that pretty much wraps up my review for It Chapter 2, so now for the next episode, it will not be a sequel film, and this time we'll finally be doing original films for the rest of the week. So, what is my next review? Well, it's not really a horror film, but it is to me. I am going to be reviewing probably what is the scariest movie I've ever watched. And as well, Requiem for a Dream. Now, I know it's not a horror movie, but it definitely is. It's considered a very terrifying movie, so, and plus it's the film's 20th anniversary, so since it's been 20 years since the film came out, I feel like it still deserves to be reviewed for this series, so yeah, anyway, that'll be a first review, guys. Thank you all for watching, and if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.